Hi, this is Fred Migliore, the host of FM Odyssey, along with Steve Matteo, my co-producer, who is a journalist and a writer of books. And we are happy to be here again. And if you have been liking our videos, please subscribe to them and let us know what you think. And today we have a very interesting topic because it's something that I have really started to enjoy for the last year or so is really diving into the Tone Poets recordings from Blue Note Records of a period of jazz, Steve, during the 1960s that was just very heady, from like 1960 through the mid 60s was just a great time for some really innovative jazz and some great musicians coming together to leave that legacy. Would you agree?
Yes. And I know those in particular are your favorites of the series, but the series it covers a wide variety of years into mostly the 50s and the 60s, the mid to late 50s and the early to later 60s. But it is covering a wider array. And recently they even put out a Frank Sinatra album, which goes way back. So I'll just do this very quickly. So that they're put out by Blue Note Records. Okay. Don is the president of Blue Note Records, your new pal who you were hanging out with the other night, Mr. Cool. So these are audiophile vinyl reissues. They're mastered from the original analog tapes. The person that is the supervisor of this whole project is a guy named Joe Harley. The original recordings were done by Rudy Van Gelder, the legend, mostly at his studio in New Jersey. And they are mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. And they are manufactured at Record Technology Inc. They're 180-gram vinyl. And most of them, even though they weren't originally in some cases gatefolds, they have been reissued as gatefolds. And so why don't you kind of start out with your three, and then I'll do my three. Okay.
Okay. Well, the first one that I really liked a lot was actually gifted to me, and that is this album. And tell me if you're getting a glare or
Yeah,
can
you
you
just
see
hold
it?
it to the side like that. It looks fine.
Okay. And this is
Freddie
the
Hubbard.
yeah, Freddie Hubbard. And the name of the album is called Blue Spirits. And the reason I like it so much is because of the fact that, well, obviously it's a really nice cut from the original analog tapes, but it was the last studio album actually for Freddie. He recorded it in the 1960s and it features the likes, and this is the part that I loved a lot, of James Spalding, Joe Henderson, Hank Mobley's on here, McCoy Tyner, Bob Cranshaw, and Pete LaRocca. And Freddie Hubbard and James Spalding, Freddie doing the trumpet, of course, and James Spalding was the alto sax, tenor sax, and flute player, had been in a partnership for almost 2 years, and things really gelled together on this recording. And just a really nice period of time where you could hear everything kind of coming together. And I just really like this one a lot.
Okay. What's next?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we were going to go back and forth here.
No,
Okay.
no.
So,
Why don't you just do your three and I'll do my three? We'll do it. It'll be
okay.
quicker that way.
All right. And then the next one is one of my all time favorites. It's from
Oh,
Hank Mobley and it's called A Caddy for Daddy. And, what's kind of interesting is that when you look at the last album that we were talking about, Hank Mobley was on the Freddie Hubbard record. So there was just like this unit of musicians that were performing on each other's records for a number of years. And so, Freddie Hubbard was not on this album, but it was came out in December of 1965, and well, actually, it was recorded in 1965, and it was released on Blue Note in 1967. And Hank Mobley is a saxophonist, and it features performances with trumpeters like Lee Morgan, trombonist Curtis Fuller, who has certainly been around the block, right, Steve?
yes.
pianist McCoy Tyner. And once again, these names show up again. Bob Crenshaw is the bassist, and Billy Higgins is the drummer. And the title song was written by Hank, and it kind of reminds me of what you would expect from a typical lineup of Blue Note players, except for the fact that they kind of really kind of put their toes out into this, and they really kind of get into a groove that, sometimes I think to myself, are some of these songs, would they ever be able to do them the same way twice? And of course, in this genre of music, the answer is probably most of the time, absolutely no. So I just really like it. It moves. It doesn't get bogged down at all, and it just has like a smooth, flow all the way from the beginning to the end. And you get to the end of this record, and you go, "Wow, it's over." So I like this record a real lot.
Okay.
Um, the other one that I wanted to bring to your attention, and let me do this here so you can see this, is
Oh,
this one here,
a good one.
Jimmy Smith, and it's called Prayer Meeting. Now, what I love about Jimmy Smith, and you probably know what I'm going to say, Steve, is that he was like, I don't know, the pioneer of the Hammond B3.
Yeah.
And the album was released in 1964 along with Stanley Turrentine. But getting back to the Hammond, he was the one that took this B3 from like a church novelty to a premier jazz instrument in the 1950s. And he's gone down in history as the first organ superstar of that era that brought the B3 to the forefront of jazz and soul. And you know who I'm going to think of as another B3 player right after this, right? Brian
Yeah.
Auger.
Yeah.
And so many other people that have done this with him. And what's so interesting about the way that he played, Steve, is he played his bass lines on a pedal board with his left foot while he was playing the keyboards, obviously with his hands. And you combine that with tenor saxophonist Stanley Turrentine. Quentin Warren is on guitar. Don Bailey is on drums, and Sam Jones is on the bass. And it just makes for a really, really wonderful recording. So I like this one a real lot too. So that's my list of three.
Okay. Those are excellent. Those are good. It's interesting because I don't have any of those. I don't have any of those, but I would love to have any of, I probably I don't know how many I have. It's not a lot, maybe a dozen or 15, you know.
Hmm.
So what I thought I would do is I'm glad you picked some things that are maybe a little bit more obscure, sort of. Because a lot of the people who listen to your show are more into the folk and rock and that kind of music. I try to pick a few things that I thought people who maybe are not jazz aficionados would easily get into. And so I'm going to start with and what I want to do here is, so these are how these are packaged. They come in these plastic outer sleeves. Fred already took his off. Okay. And then these beautiful Stoughton covers. You can't feel what it is here on video, obviously. And then, like I said, even though they weren't originally gatefolds, some of them they made into these beautiful gatefolds here. So I'm trying to do this the best I can here.
Looks good.
But
Looks
I
good.
mean, you really need to see and feel these babies. They're just beautiful, and they have these really nice audiophile inner sleeves. They're just great. So the first one that I wanted to pick here for all the rock guitar fans of FM Odyssey is introducing Kenny Burrell. And anybody that knows jazz guitar beyond the most obvious people, such as, say, George Benson, I mean, Kenny Burrell is one of the guys in terms of jazz guitar. This was his very first solo album, and obviously it was his debut album on Blue Note Records. And it's a very sort of laid back date. It's, late night kind of music. It's very mellow. It's not background cocktail music though either. He's the real thing, this guy. There's no question about it. And there's some great players on here. Um, Tommy Flanagan, Paul Chambers, Candido, and the guy that I'm really into is Kenny Clark, the drummer. He is on this, and he is incredible. He is a guy who made his name almost exclusively in Europe in many ways. And I'm always looking for records, jazz records that Kenny Clark plays the drums on. So this is if you want to get into these Blue Note tone poets, if you're a novice, this would be a good gateway drug to the series. I would highly recommend this one. And then I wanted to stay with guitarists, but I wanted to come up with something very different. So this is Grant Green, and this is called the Latin Bit. Okay. Um, and by the way, I should just mention here. So the Kenny Burrell came out in 1956, and this one, the Latin Bit, this one was originally released in 1962. And Grant Green had some similarities to Kenny Burrell, a great player, a little bit more laid back, good late night music. And this one again has got one of these beautiful, gatefold packages. But what he did with this album, and this was his fifth on Blue Note Records. He was from St. Louis. I should have mentioned Kenny Burrell's from Detroit. And so this was his fifth album. And this was a real departure for him because it was very much inspired by Latin music. And it has a groove. It just has that kind of groove. I think you kind of alluded to it. It's just got this groove that it's irresistible. You want to kind of move around. Don't worry, I won't dance, folks, because children may be watching. But this is another one,
Or
I
anyone
think,
might be watching.
right. This is another one for anybody that maybe isn't you're not a jazz expert. You want to just get into this music. This is a good start. The Latin Bit by Grant Green. And I'm gonna move ahead now in time a little bit. We're gonna do a little time travel. So this is Lou Donaldson, okay? Mr. Shingling, okay, is the name of the album. And he was actually responsible for helping break Grant Green, as a matter of fact. He almost kind of discovered him in many ways. And so the album that most people probably know by Lou Donaldson, the one that's the most popular, is called Alligator Boogaloo, which was the album that came out after this one. This one came out in 1967. And I was talking about, music to move to and the kind of groove. I mean, that's what this is. This is the kind of album you're having a party and you put this on and everybody's going to be moving. Again, I think this is the kind of jazz that if you're not an expert, if you just want to get into it, if you just want to learn about this great period in jazz and from this particular label, I highly recommend this album. Um, some of the players on this are Blue Mitchell, Lonnie Smith, Jim Ponder, and Leo Morris. And it's just great stuff. It just you put this on if you're having a bad day and you're looking for a pick me up. I mean, this will do it. And again, the Alligator Boogaloo. A lot of people do know that one, but this one is a bit more obscure. I mean, um, he had made like 18 albums over like 10 years for Blue Note, and then he recorded for Argo and Cadet for a while, and then he came back to Blue Note, and he just got really into this whole jazz soul thing. So this is Mr. Shingling from Lou Donaldson, and it's just some great stuff. He's an alto sax player, and I think you'll really like this one.
Very nice. So we've come to that part of the program that um, takes us to each one of us, right? Picking an album that the other person doesn't know. And so I thought, or we thought, because of the genre that we're talking about today, that we would pick something that we don't know that we were going to pick. But
From
so I guess
jazz, from the
from
jazz
jazz,
genre.
yes. So, and I guess I will go. You want to go first, or you want me to go
No,
first?
go right ahead.
Okay. So hold on. Let me put these
Hold the wire.
somewhere where they're not going to. Okay. So the one that I'm going to show you is this.
Okay, very nice. That's a
Uh,
beauty.
and
Yeah,
this
on
is
the
called
impulse
Ballad.
album.
Yeah, this is called Ballads from John Coltrane. And it came out in 1963 on Impulse Records. It's interesting to note some of the record labels that were around back then. You know, you had Blue Note, which was, and Blue Note has been around for how long, Steve? When did they start doing this? Do you know? I think it's close to like,
In the was it in the 40s or the 50s? See, we really should know this, but there's
yeah, I
people
think
out
it,
there are
it
screaming.
I
How
think
can
it
you
was
guys not know this?
yeah, I think it was before that. I think it was somewhere around the 20s or 30s, I think
No,
is
I
when
don't think I don't think they go back that far.
or the 1800s. But anyway,
Yeah.
we'll have to check that and we'll
Right.
get back to you.
Put in the when you're liking and subscribing and commenting, put that in there for
Hmm.
us and for other folks. Uh, thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, so anyway, so this record came out in 1963 on Impulse Records. Of course, John Coltrane is the tenor saxophone, and McCoy Tyner, there he is again. And also, he plays piano, and he was on a number. I think he's been on all the ones that I mentioned, which is kind of interesting. That common thread, but as I mentioned before, they kind of all, work the same scene and the same sessions with each other. And Jimmy Garrison's on here, Reggie Workman, and Elvin Jones is on the bass. What was interesting that I found about this album is that I love John Coltrane, but sometimes for me, his music can get very loud. And this one is just a very, very kind of mellow, like Steve mentioned before, a late night kind of sounding record. And it's not like elevator music or something like that. It just has a really, really deep and nice groove that you can kind of follow. And what I found quite curious about this album is these like four guys never played these songs before that are on this record. They would arrive with the music sheets, Steve, from the music store of the songs, and before they would record them, they would like talk about each tune and would write out copies of the changes that they use, and then they'd, I don't know, maybe rehearse for like a half an hour, and then they would do it. So each song on this record was recorded in one take, except for All or Nothing at All. So I think that lends to the spontaneity of what you're hearing on this, and maybe that's what makes it sound so exciting to me is that it is spontaneous. It sounds serendipitous. It's just like I mentioned before, could they ever go back and do that again exactly the same way? And the answer is no. So that is one of my favorites, ballads from John Coltrane from on Impulse Records from 1963.
Okay, that's a good one. And we're going to do more of these Blue Note tone poets over the through the year, and we're going to be touching on jazz again. And this year is really important in jazz history because it's the 100th birthday of Miles Davis and
Hmm.
John Coltrane.
Right.
So perfect timing on that one.
Hmm.
That's a real nice one. So I did something totally different. I dug out something really obscure. Okay. So this is
Hmm.
an album. It's called Cape Town Fringe, and it's by Dollar Brand, who is Abdullah Ibrahim. People will know him by that name. And this came out in 1977. It's on Chiaroscuro Records, and it is just an incredible album. Fred, you know where I first heard this album? I'm just going to give you one guess
Where? At
on
Al's?
WNEW-FM, if you
Oh,
can
okay.
believe that, which shows you what progressive FM radio used to be, where they would play jazz. And that's where I
Really?
heard this. And the song Cape Town
Do you
Fringe,
remember who played it? Do you remember on what show?
it might have been Richard Gere on a weekend, but I don't
Mhm.
remember. Okay.
Okay.
And the entire first side is this song, Cape Town Fringe. And it's just this incredible piece of music.
So how
And
would you describe it? How would you describe what it
it's,
is?
I mean, if you know U Masekela, it has a
Hmm.
little bit of that kind of, rootsy African groove to it, but it's very melodic and it's very accessible. And, it's like 13 minutes long. And it's just, once you start listening to it, you're just mesmerized and captivated by it. This is out of print, but you can find really good quality copies of it on Discogs at reasonable prices. The second side is it's the same thing. It's an entire side. It's called The Pilgrim. And this was just one of those albums. You'd hear jazz, but I heard this and it just blew me away. And I don't know if I was able to get a copy right away, but I just really highly recommend if you can find this piece of music. It is just amazing. And a lot of people know him as, um, I want to make sure Abdullah Ibrahim. Most people know him as that, and it's just a great piece of music, and I highly recommend it.
So is that a
And
gatefold?
no, it's not a gatefold.
Okay. What's the label? Do you know?
It's Chiaroscuro Records, which
Okay.
was a record label in Manhattan. They were part of a company called a division of Audio Fidelity Enterprises. Okay.
Okay.
And it's just he was based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and it's good stuff. And I just wanted to mention one thing before we kind of sign off here, because we do some Beatles content. There's three Beatles related movies out right now. Fred didn't know I was going to do this. I'm just going to throw this out there. Of course, there's Man on the Run, the Paul McCartney movie, which will be on Netflix. There's this thing, I'm sorry, on Amazon Prime, and
And
there's this thing.
that's playing on that's in the movie theaters also on a
Yes,
couple of
just for the weekend. And
days.
there's this thing coming out, will also be on Amazon Prime called Evolver 62, which is basically Mark Lewison, who everybody knows who he is in the Beatles world. He's an author. And it's him doing his little presentation in person thing with a kind of documentary. And then there's the documentary about Billy Preston called That's the Way God Planned It. And I know you're a big Billy Preston fan, Fred. And so these are all coming out at the same time. So I know I was going to mention this, but I just want to drop it out there to the folks.
Sounds good. And you and the viewers will be interested in noting, Steve, that Blue Note Records started on January 6th, 1939. That's when they opened for business.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yes.
we do
And
know that.
please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. Just
And
get involved.
right. And for you folks that I don't know showed up just at this video, please listen to my radio program. It's celebrating 35 years on April 7th. It's a 3 hour music show with uh, themes and interviews with artists that you know and that you don't know. It's intelligent radio. It's not insulting, and it has a lot of depth to it that touches a lot of the chords in the hearts of the people that listen to it. If you present music in a way that touches your heart and put things together in themes and sets. Sometimes you hear songs that you've heard before, but you've never gotten the meaning out of them until you hear them placed that way in between one another. So it's a very thoughtful show, and it is a radio program that has one of the highest retention rates, according to ratings and stuff, of people that show up at the beginning and actually stay there for 3 hours. And I can attest to that because of the messages that I get that I can't get anything done on Sunday mornings between 10 and 1, and I don't even bother anymore, and that sort of thing. So you can go to fmodyssey.com, FMODYSSEY.com, and you can listen to us live. Also, there's archives there of past shows that I've done. So if you'd like to check that out as well. But it's a fun place, and obviously we must be doing something right to be celebrating our 35th year. So
Yes,
that's
congratulations.
my
And there's
plug
going to
because it's my YouTube channel.
Right, exactly. That's what this is. This is an extension of FM Odyssey. That's
Hmm.
what this program is. Fred has been the host for 35 years. There's going to be a lot of celebrating of the program in April, the actual anniversary. There's going to be a lot of surprises. We'll have some announcements coming down the line, and it's an exciting year for FM Odyssey.
That is for sure, absolutely, and for me too. Anyway, anything you want to add before we say goodbye to
No,
everybody?
just please like, subscribe, check out the other videos. We're just getting this thing off the ground. I don't even think we've done 10 shows yet. We just want to share our enthusiasm and knowledge about music. It's a wide variety of music, And this is what Fred and I do. We talk about music and we talk about records and we buy records and we have no money and because we buy records.
But we have tons
And
of records.
sometimes we
So we're
get them for
actually very,
free,
we're
which
actually,
is nice.
and we're
And
actually very rich because of it. So anyway,
right.
okay. And as I always close out my shows every single week for 35 years, pay attention to the poets.